My wife did something 8 years ago that still bothers me today. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss another cheating story goes live. 2 nights ago, my wife accidentally spilled a tea while we were talking, which led me to questioning her about it. And she admitted that before I knew her, she had a 6-month-long affair with one of her friend's husbands, who are now also my friends. This was while her/our friend and the husband were already married. This supposedly happened 8 years ago, about a year before she and I met. It greatly concerns me, for sure. But I can't really think of anything I should necessarily do because of it. Her friend doesn't know anything about it, and it was supposedly isolated for those 6 months. We've been married 6 years, and I never knew about it nor would have even ever suspected it. I had a conversation with my wife beyond the what and when of the affair, and we delved into the context of why and how could you. My wife and the husband's first time alone was after she took care of their dog for 2 weeks. Where her friend and the husband were out of town at the same time on separate business trips. The second week, the husband got home on Wednesday. And he took my wife out to dinner to thank her. This turned into quite a bit of drinking, though she couldn't hold her liquor nearly as well as him. She was pretty out of it even after they returned to her friend and husband's place. They had driven to the restaurant together, with him driving. So she would have to wait around their place for another couple hours to drive herself home. They got to talking about the deeper, heart-to-heart things in their life, with him telling her that his and her friend's marriage wasn't doing so well, him asking her advice. Each piece of advice being discouraged as not being viable for this or that reason. And the conversation led to something more of him suggesting the best solution right now is for me to have someone like you to talk to. But my wife wouldn't like me talking one-on-one frequently like that. So would you be okay if we kept in touch like this as long as you're willing to keep it a secret from my wife? She was in a place in her life where her self-esteem was pretty low, and he started flattering her pretty convincingly. Eventually, they got to making out and all that, and then ultimately having sex and her spending the night. They kept in touch secretly, with the pattern basically going the same as it did that night, minus the excessive alcohol. Part of it was her misplaced sympathy for the husband. Part of it was their physical chemistry together. Part of it was a guilty sense of it's dragged on for X weeks/months now. So I guess continuing to be the one to whom he turns for temporary happiness doesn't make me any worse or guiltier of a person at this point. And part of it was the continued affirmation that her self-esteem got from it. He started wanting and demanding more and more of her time and attention. So much so that her whole life started consisting of catering to his requests and ability to randomly sneak away for a couple hours here and there. Eventually, the guilt and stress of it all led her to disentangle herself from it, and they stopped being involved with each other emotionally/sexually, apparently on good terms. She avoided them and most of her whole social circle for a while. But eventually felt distanced enough from it all that she started re-entering the social circle even when one or both of them were in attendance. Since then, she's learned to put it out of her mind. And it's just a mistake from the past from which she learned that barely crosses her mind anymore. As to why she's never told me, she says that she was embarrassed about it. She told herself that, since she had learned her lesson, it wasn't relevant for her to tell me in the beginning of our relationship. That it would be emotionally vomiting on me unnecessarily. Then more and more time went on, and her worry that any lingering struggle she had from it diminished. So she decided that it was irrelevant to ever tell me. As to why she's never told her friend, she doesn't want to be the one to ruin her friend and husband's marriage. If he's found someone else with whom to cheat, she feels that's on him and not her business. She says that she's never had a relapse encounter with him. Nor has she ever done anything like that again either before or after meeting me. Even though I disagree with her and do feel that it was relevant enough for her to have told me at some point. Especially after we've been married for years and years now, I've decided that I'm not going to separate from her or anything like that. I'll just forgive her basically. I do not feel it's my place to tell her friend, but I did tell her that I would be much more comfortable if she told and apologized to her friend. However, it's been so long, that I don't think it's my place to require that she admit all this to her friend. Only letting her know I am uncomfortable with her not having told her friend. I did insist that she and I maintain a lot more distance from her friend and her husband from here on out though. And I will be the one to talk with the husband about why that's the case, so he would now know that I know. Also, unfortunately, I'm sure that I won't be able to let my guard down with my wife for a long time. I did tell her, if I ever discover her cheating on me, now that I know this, I would not be able to stay with her. Yes, people change, and forgiveness is a thing. and that's basically what is happening here. But her cheating in the future would indicate a lack of change. My main problem now is knowing I should probably maintain a sex life with my wife. But knowing I'll have a hard time putting all of this out of my head. Yet also recognizing that avoiding a sex life with her might backfire and have her more prone to stray. Here are some of the best comments from our community. Your wife gave you some explanations for the why of the affair: misplaced sympathy, chemistry, a sense of obligation to carry on. She omitted the main reason: attention. Many cheaters chase the feelings of being validated. I hope she learned to find validation by other means, otherwise she's an open door waiting for someone to step in. The main quandary that you should have is, how do you live with yourself and not tell his wife? You are no friend to either of these people if you continue the lie and cover up. If you do not insist that your wife tell her, you are no better than the cheaters. Suck it up and do the right thing. Here is the second story. Mill's affair is affecting my family negatively. I don't want to communicate with them anymore. Some backstory: my husband's mother is mostly a sweet and caring Mill and grandma to my baby. However, she does have a history of boundary stomping. Undermining me when I tell my child she can't eat a lot of sweets. Or can't run off to the neighbor's house to play unsupervised, etc. She also serves as a screeching FM to my absolutely grandmother-in-law who ruined my birth and made me take on therapy for now diagnosed PTSD. My dear husband, 27M, is slowly coming out of the fog about the underlying toxicity surrounding the rug sweeping, and narcissistic tendencies and manipulation, but it's definitely a work in progress, and moving pretty slowly with bursts of clarity before receding back for a bit. The story at hand: my Mill has a long history of infidelity. My husband saw every affair, or at least heard the fighting about it whenever she was caught. That lack of consequences for infidelity has caused some big issues in our 11-year relationship. Step Phil is a great guy, but spineless and too financially comfortable to leave. The last time was about 2 months ago. She went out on a girls' trip out of state, and it was discovered she was actually with an affair partner. I'm done with her. It's so tense at their house even though they try to act normal. She thinks we don't know, but she didn't take the crying, incoherent phone call with suicidal thoughts from Phil. I did. I'm pissed at her, and the build-up to this point has been a long time coming. I do not feel comfortable being around, or having my dear daughter around someone with so little respect for relationships, mental health, boundaries, etc. Dear husband thinks it can be resolved with staying out of it and just not bringing it up. But that mentality is why I am firmly in no contact with the rest of his family. That's the same mentality that contributed to me developing PTSD, and the same one that could have killed me and my daughter before she was even born. I've gone low contact, and the calls inviting us over with the poor me far away tone, and texts of love bombing, have started to escalate. We in the past visited once a week, or bi-weekly. To now maybe once a month, or longer in between, mostly for me, and not without mild resistance from my husband. I've never told him he can't see his mom though. When we are there, she swipes and comments at me, because my dad and his fiancée see her very often, and are super respectful of our parenting and boundaries, and she doesn't get the same treatment. Bringing it up to her would be a screaming mess, and I don't want my daughter seeing that. I feel like if someone with her history is continuing this pattern of selfishness and borderline narcissism, that she would only hinder my 6-year-old daughter and her budding respect for relationships and personal boundaries like she did my husband. I also feel like she has already started hindering her respect for me as her mother, because if I say no, I'm met with "but Mima says." Hard no on that one, and I'd like to not have a bad influence on my one and only child. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.